Today we go over how to start playing Vanguard and more specifically, getting your first deck.
Take a look at who I am now. I'm stronger than ever. And if you ever doubted me, you should've known better.
Now this is just the first episode in a multi-episode series where I will introduce you to getting into Vanguard. So this first episode is basically just telling you about the options you have when it comes to building your first deck or buying your first deck. We'll get into it more later. And then as the episodes progress, we'll keep building on top of that. So this video is specifically if you're like, oh, I'm gonna start playing Vanguard, but I know nothing. So the very first thing we really need to cover is the fact that ever since 2018, I believe May-ish, June-ish, in English at least, there have been two formats for the game of Vanguard. There is Standard and Premium. Standard has less cards, it's only the new cards, less interactions, it's more simple, so also easier to learn. Whereas Premium has all of the cards that have come out, so way more interactions, more complexity, and thus it's also a bit harder to get into at first. This is why for this whole tutorial kind of series, we will start with Standard and then add the possibility of easing into Premium after a while. Now, as of now, there are 3 deck styles and every single kind of deck falls into one of these categories. First of all, we have Excel, which is an aggressive rush kind of deck, often with multiple attacks. There is Protect, a slower kind of grind game with usually a win con that makes it so if you reach it, you are very, very likely to win. And then Force is usually some sort of balance between two, some mid-range, some bigger attacks, not many attacks, not much rush, but also not as slow as a Protect deck. Generally, these counter each other. For example, Excel should usually beat Protect, Protect should usually beat Force, and Force should usually beat Excel. But of course, there are exceptions. Now, within these 3 categories, there are several clans. Now, every single clan only has access to one of these 3 playstyles right now, but of course maybe that changes in the future. For now we don't know. For now every single clan only has one of these imaginary gift markers, as we call them right now. Now I'll be going over all the clans, but note that we have quite a few to go through, so I'll give a very general statement for each. This is to give new people a very quick overview instead of having a 2-hour-long video going over all the clans. If a clan really piques your interest, you can find loads of information on each of these on sites like cardfight.wikia.com. So now for Excel, first of all, we have Aqua Force, Navy Soldiers and Sirens doing lots of attacks, Nova Grappler, Robots doing lots of attacks, Great Nature, Intelligent Animals that discard the top card of your deck, also known as milling, to gain a random effect depending on what you mill. Pale Moon, Circus Animals and Acrobats that are called from the soul, an extra resource, instead of your hand to then create lots of attacks. Narukami, a bunch of Thunder Dragons that also get rid of your opponent's units on their board, so there's kind of a control element in there. Gold Paladin, a bunch of knights building a big formation to then give you lots of attacks. Murakumo, a bunch of ninjas doing all sorts of different things depending on which grade 3 you run. Overall, this clan has just changed so much since back in the day that it's pretty hard to pinpoint exactly what they do. Tachikaz, a bunch of dinosaurs devouring each other to gain benefits. Those were all the Excel clans for now. Then there's Protect, Angel Feather, angels healing your damage away and using your damage zone as an extra resource. Dark Irregular, demons and vampires using the soul as an extra resource. Grand Blue, zombie pirates using the drop zone, meaning dead cards, to bring back cards to life. Mega Colony, insects controlling your opponent's board. Nubatama, ninjas controlling your opponent's hand. Oracle Think Tank, members of a magical business conglomerate that manipulate their own deck. They essentially stack the deck in the pilot's favor. Finally, there's also Force decks. First of all, we have Bermuda Triangle, mermaids building entire boards whilst filling hand. Dimension Police, robots doing huge attacks. Gear Chronicle, steampunk-based humanoids and dragons, warping time, giving you various resources. Genesis, a rival business to Oracle Think Tank. They utilize the soul for various skills. Kagero, dragons which retire your opponent's board. There is often a focus on the Vanguard itself rather than the units around it. Link Joker, aliens manipulating the opponent's board and Vanguard. Neo Nectar, plants and plant people calling plant tokens to build a board and gain various effects. Royal Paladin, knights calling from the deck to build a board. Shadow Paladin, dark knights calling from various places whilst also retiring retiring their own to gain extra benefits, Spike Brothers, Ogres, Demons and Goblins, playing their own version of American football or rugby, they call from the deck and do huge attacks. So these are the current clans in Standard and what they're generally about. As I said, if any of these pique your interest, you can go to cardfight.wikia.com to read up on them, look at all the cards and so forth, and get really deep. This is just a quick overview. Now that you know the clans, and hopefully there is one or a few that piqued your interest, there are two options to start building your very first deck. Again, we are talking about the very first one, the bare basics. The first option, and I think the best option, is buying a trial deck. It is essentially a pre-constructed deck made by Bushiroad, the company behind Vanguard. It's the most budget-friendly option, and generally they're quite balanced against each other. So you can buy two different trial decks and try the game with a friend, get the basic rulings down before then diving into more expensive options and more strategy. The current options you have when it comes to trial decks are Royal Paladin, Kagero, Aqua Force, Shadow Paladin, and then finally, two new ones that were just released, Oracle Think Tank and Narukami. Now soon, in English, we'll also get a Link Joker trial deck, and even later than that, a Bermuda Triangle trial deck. So as I said, if you're brand new to the game, this is your first time trying the whole game, and you happen to have a friend that also wants to try, that's ideal because you can just get two different trial decks and start playing against each other and find out if you like the game, find out if there's maybe a playstyle you really enjoy, and you won't have to shelve out insane amounts of cash just to start playing. Also important to note is that back in the day, you had to buy 4 trial decks to have all the staples you needed. Afterwards, that changed into needing to buy 2 trial decks to get all the staples. And now, finally, you only need to buy 1 trial deck and you will have 4 copies, which is the maximum you're allowed to use, of every staple card you need. So whilst games like Yu-Gi-Oh! Still require you to buy 3 structure decks to have all your staples, in Vanguard you literally just buy 1 and you have everything. So that's pretty cool because you only need 1. Now the other option to buy your first deck is of course buying single cards. It's quite a bit harder when you're new to the game because you don't really know what cards make sense in a deck together. Sure, you could copy a list of YouTube, but that list could very well be bad. It could be outdated because the meta shifted and you don't even know why certain cards go into a certain combination with each other. It's also very possible that you spend like, I don't know, $150 or 150 euros on a deck and then find out, oh, I don't actually like this clan, or maybe, oh, I don't even actually like this game. So that's a pretty big risk you're taking and you don't even know the rules yet. So if you're really new and you're not sure, maybe you don't even have the massive budget to really invest, nothing big coming in the foreseeable future, you should really start with a trial deck and that way figure things out and maybe upgrade as you go. Now, one thing that you didn't hear me say is buying boxes. And that is because it's incredibly hard to build a deck out of buying boxes. If you buy a box, it usually has 3, 4 or 5 clans in it, and you will only get 1 VR offset clan in the boxes. And to make a really long, complicated story short, you will have to buy an insane amount of boxes before you can actually build a fully functional deck out of it, and you will have a lot of cards that you won't be using in said deck. So unless you are planning to split it amongst lots of friends and so forth, it's just not worth it for your very first deck. That's why I say try to stick to a trial deck, and if you really want to play another clan that doesn't have a trial deck, go for singles. Sure, copy a list from YouTube and just change the list as you go. Now, reaching the end of this video, the goal was just for you to find a clan you like and get your first deck, hopefully a trial deck, because it's really the easiest way. And on the next episode of How to Start Playing Vanguard, we will be going over general gameplay. I hope you found this very interesting. If you did, please subscribe to the Solemn Vanguard channel and click the bell button to stay up to date. That way you'll get the next episode and various other Vanguard related videos. I will see you soon. Ciao.